Bournemouth have won 7 of their 10 most recent league games, having failed Cas to win any of their first 9 under Iraola. And again, going back onto Gary O'Neill was in charge at the end of last season, and they made the decision to change. And a lot of that was based on the style of football and the style of football they wanted to see being brought in at Bournemouth. Are we now seeing this new style of football that was promised by the change in management?
Well, I think it's unfair on Gary, first and foremost. Because Bournemouth were in a battle last year, weren't they? And he'd done a terrific job there. And I find it... Look, there's always... I've said this before, Nat. When you have a style of football, if you've got the players to play a more attack-minded game, great. You can do that. Obviously, if you look at Bournemouth's team now, Kluivert's come into it, and he's done reasonably well. That's the son of Patrick, obviously, really terrific player. You look at Tavernier, who's a good dead ball situations, great deliverer of a ball. Solanke's benefiting with goals. Yeah. So it's really a side that's sort of developed. And you can't deny Bournemouth have been terrific this year. We mentioned in the last break, just before the last break, we talked about Wolves, they're doing so well, and we talked about Brighton as a football club. Bournemouth this season, have, like Jurgen Klopp said, have changed it around dramatically from a team that looked like we're going to get beaten every week, and now sitting quite comfortably on 25 points, sort of just below mid-table with a couple of games in hand. So fair play to them. They've stayed with their ideas. They believed in the manager. The manager's showed his worth. And there's a lot of excitement, I'm sure, on the South Coast about how Bournemouth have developed as a club.
They're currently 12th in the table. A win would take them level on points with Wolves. They'd need a massive sort of win over Liverpool if they were to overtake Wolves, depending on even what happens with the Brighton-Wolves game, which is to come on Monday, going into the next match week of Premier League action. What about Liverpool then? Mo Salah obviously is missing, been so influential this season, in the 10 games that he has missed in the Premier League for Liverpool. They are unbeaten, though, and have picked up 7 wins in those games. He doesn't miss many games, and it tends to be only when he's on international duty. We've talked about his durability. I know he's picked up a little injury whilst playing for Egypt, but I think they've said it's not too serious, so it shouldn't hopefully impact him on a return to Liverpool. But the stats don't lie. They are able to cope with him. So in some ways, who are you looking at in that Liverpool side to take on the role of a Salah, shall we say?
Well, Harvey Elliott could play if necessary. I mean, Jota's come back from injury. Nunes can play. You've got Diaz, so you've got a lot of attack minds. I think the emergence of Curtis Jones, and certainly watching him, in the previous game in the Cup against Arsenal, I thought he was terrific. So they've turned a lot of games around. Jurgen Klopp has used and utilised that squad brilliantly. This year, Liverpool have won a lot of points from positions where his substitutions have come on and changed the game. It's been Harvey Elliott. It's been, the game at Newcastle was Nunes when he came on and got them 2 brilliantly taken goals. And as a team, they're doing that across the park. I think Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones, their performances, when they've been called upon, have been terrific as well. And that's not with just the players who are in the starting lineup.
It's interesting when you talk about Liverpool because they have trailed in 10 Premier League games this campaign, but they've won more points than any other team trailing so far, picking up 19 points from those losing positions. Substitutes have been a massive game changer for Liverpool this season.
Best.
Indeed. Players brought off the bench have already contributed a mammoth 30 goals and assists so far this season, which is 12 more than any other Premier League team have recorded so far. I mean, how are they being... it intrigues me how...
Well, can we not give a lot of praise to the manager?
Well, that's what I was going to say. The way that he is able to change a game, it's very impressive.
That's part of management. You're meant to see things that a lot of people don't. I talked about Tony Mulberry, didn't I, midweek, making 4 changes in 2 minutes.
That's right.
When they were losing the game. They've ended up winning the game. They won the game again yesterday. Wayne Rooney couldn't get, for whatever reason, couldn't get a victory out. Sometimes that happens, okay? Jurgen Klopp's decision-making have been nothing short of sensational so far this season. That's enabled Liverpool to lead at the top of the table at the moment. And he's going to have to keep getting them calls right because... if you're going to bring on Harvey Elliott, I think he did it at Crystal Palace. There was a change in that game. They turned that game around. And he's going to use players that he knows he can trust to do a job that he sees something wrong. That's the brilliant skills of managers, that they see things not all of us who are watching the game can see, and he'll go, spot that, got to change that, bring him on, he can come in here and manoeuvre the team around. He's done that fantastically well. And Liverpool are going to have to keep doing it, and he's going to have to keep doing it.
Well, it's City who are second, but with Arsenal winning yesterday, both those teams, and Aston Villa, we should say, are all on 43 points. They're only 2 points off Liverpool, but Liverpool can pull 5 points clear should they win today. Last season, Cass, their away form was troublesome. Yeah. They have...
Well, it was an ageing team, Nat, wasn't it? As in the midfield area of Liverpool. Mm-hmm. If you think of who left, even... We talk about Milner and we'll talk about Henderson. Thiago was not really played. Thiago was one of them for me. Incredibly gifted footballer.
Yeah. Technically
up there with the very best. But he wasn't a pacey. Liverpool didn't have a pacey midfield last year. Dynamism. It's sort of... they'd lost their way. Mm-hmm. Jurgen Klopp rebuilt that with this year. And Curtis Jones's energy has changed. He now looks like when Jordan Henderson was at his best and James Milner was at his best, he looks like he's got that sort of energy. So it's a massive plus. McAllister was a slow burner coming in from Brighton, but now he's looked a far more accomplished player. Szoboszlai came in and started brilliantly, but their midfield has changed dramatically from an ageing one. Even the Ox, he was their quickest. Yes, if you look at Liverpool's midfield, you took player for player, who was the quickest around the pitch? The Ox, but he wasn't playing. Had so many injuries.
Yeah. They are vying for a 6th away league win of this season, which would match their tally for the whole of last season. So again, likewise, what we're talking about with West Ham on the verge, if they win today, it'll be their 11th win of the season, which would match their tally for the whole of last season. Yet again, just yet another improvement that we're seeing from Liverpool. How tough a challenge do you think Bournemouth will be for them today?
Well, if Bournemouth play to their potential, it will be a tough game. I think Liverpool have too much for them, but there is no switch off with Bournemouth. Don't get caught out by this sleepy town down on the south coast. That that their football team comes alive, and now they've got the confidence because they've won games. If you'd have played Bournemouth at the start of the season, you'd have gone there for absolute banker. It's not quite the same. They are a side. I saw them at Tottenham just recently when they lost, and the game was very competitive, Nat, for long periods. Yeah. Tottenham ended up blowing them away, but they definitely, caused Tottenham problems. And I could see Bournemouth causing Liverpool's back four issues. But my big thing is that it's hard stopping, even without Salah, Liverpool's front line, because Jota comes in. His hunger and desire is brilliant as well. Diaz likewise. Núñez, there's a great piece in the paper about Núñez as well, and why Liverpool fans love him. And I understand it because he never stops trying, never stops. He's so determined to do well. And, yeah, he's got to chip in by the end of the season. I've said it all along. He's got to come along with assists and goals because that's what he's about.
Well, so good has Bournemouth's recent form been that they are looking to avoid back-to-back Premier League losses because they lost last time out to Spurs, like you mentioned there, Cass. But they're looking to avoid back-to-back defeats for the first time since October. So a real change in fortunes for Bournemouth, and that is a 4:30 kickoff today.
The Sunday Sports Breakfast with Natalie Sawyer and Tony Cascarino. Sunday mornings from 6 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.